Muthiora, good morning.
Good morning, Bitok.
How are you?
It's a real pleasure to be here. Nasikia hapo mnapiga watu tackle. Mpaka ile kusisimka ya kimataifa inatokea.
Watajua wajui.
Lakini
unajua ni town.
Habari huwa inafika. Hicho ndo cha muhimu. Na nashukuru kwamba mmekuwa mnajikakamua kabisa.
Watu wanasema nini huko nje?
Huko nje, by the way, nafaa kufikisha salamu. Mimi nimetumwa tu na watu kwa ground. Wanasema wamekuwa wanapata equipment ya kufanya kazi, kuinua hustle zao. Lakini sasa kunanyesha, inafaa miavuli ndo ikuje. Huo ujumbe natumai utafika kwa ambao wanahusika.
Sasa ambia hao direct, si mimi.
Sio wewe. Bora ni kwamba tuko kwenye tako na ujumbe utafika.
Ndio muhimu bana. Tuambie wewe ni nani aswa?
MUTHIORA KARIARA ni Mkenya mzalendo. Kisiasa kwa taifa nilijiunga mwaka 2017. That's when I ventured into the national arena. I was initially running for president, but then IEBC happened. But because my resolve was so strong, I could not allow that to deter the aspirations I had. And these are aspirations that are carried by many Kenyans who believe that Kenya can be great. So I found a way to be on the ballot with Dr. Japheth Kaluyu, and together we ran in the 2 elections that were held in 2017. Currently, I'm the party leader of the great nationhood party of Kenya, TGN, the fastest growing political party in the entire world. I would like to confirm that.
Sio Kenya pekee?
Hapana.
Ati IBC walikufanya nini kwanza?
IBC wajua wamekuwa na za ovyo mara kadhaa, and I'm glad kuna mchakato sitautaja unazungumzia kuhusu fixing the IBC. So maybe the approach is not right, but a lot of fixing needs to happen at the IEBC.
All right. And to get to GEORGIADIS. Now, please, utatusaidia kutaja. You need to pay us to pronouncing your name. That's a very difficult name. Good morning.
Good morning, Gerald Bitok.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And I'm also happy to be here. Yeah, so that name is pronounced as GEORGIADIS.
GEORGIADIS.
GEORGIADIS, yes.
Hey, unalipanga watu kupronounce ama ni sisi pekee tunataka kutunyanyasa?
Ukipronounce mara 2-3 utaizoea.
All right. So wewe ni nani aswa?
So I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I practice in Nairobi. I am yet to venture into national politics, but I have serious aspirations. I have on my part vied for a seat in the Law Society of Kenya to be the Nairobi representative, but I was unsuccessful.
Hata unalia IBC.
IBC were in charge of the election, so I think kuna maneno ilifanyika.
Ni watu mnalianga IBC bana.
Ni kweli. Lisemalo lipo.
When I grow up, I don't want to run IBC. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Kabla tujaanza tackle, asante sana bajamaa kwa kuja. Kabla tujaanza tackle, kuna the daughter of Eda Reds. Eda Reds is one of our biggest fans, by the way, on the tackle. Na msichana wake leo akona birthday. Wacha tuone kama tunaweza mpata kwa simu. Tumwimbie happy birthday kidogo. Sijui ni Agatha ndio ataimba happy birthday leo ama ni nani ataimba happy birthday. Lakini wacha tuone kama tumpata. Unajua ukikaa tako likuwa fan hivi unaanza kupata special offers kama hizi. Watoto wako kuambia happy birthday nini uko unashare ndio unapata. Lakini kama hatumpati looks like they are not picking calls. But anyway, kuna birthday ya msichana anaitwa Nina. Kuna majina yako alikuwa anasema ni ngumu, lakini ni ngumu zaidi. Nina Yena Jemutai Reds. All right, happy birthday Nina Yena Jemutai Reds from your mom Eda Reds ambaye ni fan mkubwa wa the tackle. Happy birthday. Wish you a very happy birthday. Mungu akulinde na uweze kuwa mtu wa maana katika Kenya hii. Asante sana. Thank you so much. Happy birthday Jemutai Reds. Thank you so much for Eda Reds. Asante sana kwa kuwa fan wa the tackle. Na kila mtu ambaye anataka kupatanga offers kama hizi lazima ukae tackle wish na unapiga share kila saa. All right, tutaanza kazi direct. Na kuanza na video fulani hapa. I request you to have your headphones on so that you can hear what is going on. Mjue ni nini kwa video hii. Tukianza.
Well, it's easier to be a parent this morning. It's easier to be a dad. It's easier to tell your kids Character matters. It matters. Well, it's easier to be a parent this morning. It's easier to be a dad. It's easier to tell your kids character matters. It matters. Telling the truth matters. Being a good person matters. And it's easier for a whole lot of people. If you're Muslim in this country, you don't have to worry if the president doesn't want you here. If you're an immigrant, you don't have to worry if the president's going to be happier to have babies snatched away or send dreamers back for no reason. This is vindication for a lot of people who have really suffered. You know, the I can't breathe. You know, that wasn't just George Floyd. That was a lot of people that felt that they couldn't breathe. Every day you're waking up and you're getting these tweets and you just don't know, and you're going to the store and people who have been afraid to show their racism are getting nastier and nastier to you, and you're worried about your kids and you're worried about your sister. And can she just go to Walmart and get back into her car without somebody saying something to her? And you spent so much of your life energy just trying to hold it together. And this is a big deal for us just to be able to get some peace and have a chance for a reset. And the character of the country matters. And being a good man matters. You know, I just want my sons to look at this. Look at this. You know, it's easy to do it the cheap way and get away with stuff, but it comes back around. It comes back around. And this is a good day for this country. I'm sorry for the people who lost. For them, it's not a good day. But for a whole lot of people, it's a good day.
In the video, elections from America, there is someone who was speaking on TV about the election of Joe Biden. And you wonder, you know, that is much that elections means to people in America. It means character, it means rebuilding of a nation, it means the values of a nation. In Kenya, it means which tribe you come from. And that's a very quite interesting topic. I also want to throw out another happy birthday to a brother who left us. Jared Chirchir, we miss you. You know, you might not be with us today, but I know that you are loved and missed, and may you continue resting in peace. From family, my brother all the way from America, Mark Chirchir, thank you so much. Nataka kuambia kwamba happy birthday ukiwa pale juu mbinguni, na uendelee kutulinda na kutulinda. May you continue resting in peace. You are loved and missed and cherished. All right, that is how much elections means to people in America. What does that make you feel? That is a man who shed tears on live TV.
Well, I was moved by the speech that he gave, and it spoke to me because I've been there before, and I know that elections are not just important. Elections are everything, especially to a nation that's developing like ours. Elections determine who goes into office, and in a country such as ours, where we have the big man syndrome, that person who is in office determines every aspect of your life. That's something that Kenyans have not come to realize, but then it's a high time such a message touched us. Well, I mentioned here earlier that we are having a conversation about having a new kind of a country that's different from what we are used to. A nation that upholds integrity. A nation whose people are patriotic. A nation that seeks to get the best out of people's characters. People who have a vision that when they exit, they will leave a better nation than they found. And not people who just sit back on their laurels, but then take action to make sure that whatever promises that this nation has had from independence come into fruition. So I would urge that we take the lesson from the US seriously, that elections are the most important thing that the people of a nation can go through. It doesn't determine just your future, it determines your present. And sometimes when you get it right, you also have an opportunity to revisit historical injustices and to remedy them so that you do not repeat the same mistakes that you made. Now, that said, I would also wish for people to realize that democracy cannot be something where two wolves and the sheep decide on what to have for dinner. Elections are so much more important than that. Yes, Bitok.
So what are some of the things that you've learned from America?
Well,
The American elections.
I've learned that the loose talk we've had about deep state is for real. No,
Is it for real or is it a scam?
it's for real. There are people here and there who can pull strings and even deny a sitting president an opportunity.
So in this case, who was the deep state? Because I
Well-
think Africans can really get peculiar.
Trump fired that warning shot that there's a deep state moving stuff here and there. And if you analyze things properly, you'll realize that Trump came into office mostly based on himself, his character, his personality.
So where was the deep state then?
Well, he was able to sidestep the deep state. But
Interesting.
then
So they can be sidestepped.
Yes, that's possible.
okay.
That's a lesson I learned from the Trump presidency. But then you cannot ignore them forever because they exist.
All right.
So they worked against him. They delegitimized his presidency throughout his whole term. And now he's off. So, yes, around here we've heard about the deep state. And another lesson is even the deep state can get it wrong again. You remember there was a prophecy by a renowned senior in Kenya who said Trump will be re-elected.
Yes, and he's actually a chairman of deep state.
We've got news for him. Deep state can be outwitted. And I believe that Kenya's voice will be heard in the referendum when that comes to be and in 2022.
All right. Sasa umeanza kutishia deep state. Muthiora, hujamaliza na IBC umeanza kutishia deep state.
Sasa ukweli ni kwamba mimi niko na watu na nikiwa na watu sina uoga, manake
Usitulie hata kidogo.
penye watu Mungu pia yupo.
Kabisa. Wanasema the voice of God is the voice of the voice of what? Of the people is the voice of God.
Yes.
All right. Pole kwa Kiingereza ambayo imenichanganya. Georgiadis. Correct. Now this is a video from a father, and they were saying that now, once again, it's easier to be a good father. It's easier to tell your child that character matters. It's easier to be an American. That is a much that elections means to Americans. In Kenya, we only vote in 5 years, vote in our man, and disappear for another 5 years, or we start complaining in between. What are some of the things that you've picked from the American elections?
First of all, let me congratulate Biden and Harris. They are my colleagues in the law profession. I'm very proud of them. Funny enough is that I did not support them. I really wanted Trump to get another term. I had my own reasons.
Which
are? One of my reasons was I believed Trump to be a very tough man. And you see, when you have America as a superpower, you don't need a soft president because China is just watching them, looking at them, ready to pounce. So Trump was able to handle China. And that's why I supported Trump, because if you analyze the economic development of the US, you would actually realize that Trump grew that economy more than even Obama did. Because he was able to get certain things right. But I must also condemn some of the policies. He had also bullshit policies like policies to do with immigrants. You see the video you've just shared. The father was actually crying because Trump, when he came into power, he introduced some bullshit policies. He used to harass immigrants. It was actually difficult for Africans to travel to the US. So that one we must condemn. But I actually supported him because I thought the way he used to handle China, and you see China, even for us as Kenyans, China is just on our neck. All the money, all the loans we're borrowing, you borrow from China. The people of China do not have a human heart. They produce and manufacture substandard commodities that come to Africa. We consume them, we get sick. It messes up our human anatomy. So we need US as the superpower. We need a president that is tough. We don't need somebody who's soft-spoken. And that's why I supported Trump for that particular election. But I must
Do you think we borrow money from China or we borrow from anyone who is willing to give? Because I even see the president scale alikuwa ameamua kuchukua sadaka huko Vatican.
most of the loans come from China. I mean,
I think China is just a strategic giver.
well,
Because I've never had China saying, okay guys, come take money. We go there and say, tuko na barabara tunataka kujenga, tusaidie bilioni 20.
you see, the reason as to why we love China is because they have cheap labor. You see, when we are constructing roads around, all of them, we have Chinese working on those roads and even building houses. Right now in Kilimani, we have a Chinese town because they offer cheap labor, they offer cheap materials. And that's why I thought maybe we need somebody who will be able to put China on checks and balances, not to come in Africa and try to...
So someone in America putting China in check in Africa. Quite interesting.
Mitok, I would wish to just differ a bit with my friend. Georgiadis, here's where we get it wrong. We want to blame China for our inefficiencies. China, like any other state, is looking out for the interests of its people. What we lack are leaders who look out for our own interest. So when China has money to give because the return makes sense for them, it's our leaders who should do their due diligence and ensure that they are getting the best out of the deal. We should stop blaming China and lay that blame squarely where it belongs, which is on our leaders. And unfortunately, it's us, the people, who put these leaders into office. Talk about products from China. The best products, by the way, some are made in China. Take, for instance, the phone, the iPhone. It's one of the best phones in the world. Where is it made?
China.
Yes. So we too can have those super quality products, but then we've got to want them. We've got to put in office leaders who look out for the best interest. And let's not hope that the US is going to chaperone everyone, so those who are not as powerful as them are not taking advantage of her. We have a voice. Let us make that voice count.
All right. As we leave America, let's come back to Kenya and have a brief on what is going on. The BBI report. The president is supposed to have a meeting today with the former prime minister. Na atakuwa na COG, Council of Governors. And these guys have showed their own demands and said, this and this and this is what we want. They have not told us, but we didn't hear. But anyway, let's get a short brief from both of you on what both of you think about BBI. I'll start with Majimbo.
Gerald, on my part, I have looked at this document. And
have you looked or you've read? You know, looking is different from reading.
You know, some of these documents, you cannot spend a lot of time reading them because if I was being paid to read it, I would focus on it. But because I'm not being paid to read it, I can only read it in parts. Those that seems like they are likely to affect me or Mwananchi. But I have looked at it substantially. And I must say that this document needs a lot of revisiting. It's not a document we can adopt it the way it is because there are some provisions that actually affect the way we run our institutions. I liked how the deputy president highlighted some of the key provisions in that particular report that needs to be relooked. And I must also say that you see, if we allow a consensus, if we allow a discussion that will enable us reach a consensus, the better, because we will have a less contested referendum. And I must agree that the 2010 Constitution is not perfect. Even the US have had several amendments to their Constitution. Same way, we also need several amendments to our 2010 Constitution. So, this report, we needed to subject it to several discussions. Let us take it to Mwananchi, let us take to Kenyans, let us air our views, let us correct those provisions that are problematic. Because it is clear that not everything in that report is for the good of Kenyans. Yeah.
Okay, that's what you feel. So what do you think are the pros and the cons of BBI? Very briefly.
In my view, I would say that BBI, of course, has got some positives. Because we can see there are some provisions that actually are coming to improve the 2010 Constitution. But those ones, of course, we expected them because that was the whole idea as to why Raila and Uhuru did this handshake. But of course, what we need to look at are the cons. The pros are there. There are an advantage. We don't need to focus on them, but we need to look at the cons. We saw how the deputy president highlighted the issue to do with the judiciary. He highlighted the issue to do with the IBC. He highlighted the issue to do with the Senate. If you look at the US, you would realize that these presidents come from the Senate. So in Kenya, if you're able to make the Senate the upper house, make it a proper house, a house that can conduct trials, a house that can take evidence, summon witnesses, the CJ at some instances be allowed to sit in the Senate to conduct trials, because we have serious brains in the Senate. And of course, I also want to join the Senate. But now my problem is we need to make it the upper house. And of course, one of the issues that comes out as a main disadvantage of the BBI report is now the expanded executive. It is clear that these people had an ulterior motive. They wanted to accommodate certain individuals at the top, and they're lying to us that they want to accommodate tribes. They do not have a structure of accommodating tribes. You see, somebody had made a proposal that if you want to accommodate tribes, let us have a rotational presidency. If they had come with that particular suggestion, then we would say BBI is for Kenyans, but not this kind of report that you are seeing being placed before us.
All right. Our good friend, Naibu Rais.
Yes, sir. Bitok, I'm very happy when I'm in a panel with a young person who is very sober like Georgiadis here.
Thank you.
The truth of the matter is, people support these documents during the day, but when they go back home in their closed spaces, they criticize it because it has lots of faults. And by the way, I should have started by asking you, which BBI?
Kuna wengine, mi najua moja hii iko hapa kwa meza.
Well, I know there is a very senior Kenyan who was part of that task force or committee who has claimed that the document that was given to Kenyans, the one that should be BBI 2, does not represent their work.
Yes.
Some people went, locked themselves up and edited stuff. So which document are we talking about?
I'm referring to BBI 2, which they have brought to us and told us now this is a BBI.
Yes. So,
ile ingine walisema haikuwa BBI mzuri, sasa wameleta ingine.
Sasa hapa tunahitaji kwanza kabisa we deal with the credibility issues of these documents. That cannot be ignored. Now, kama kuna ukora umefanyika, then it's not worth the paper it's written on. Because ukora ndo umesababisha Kenya iwe ambapo iko leo hii. Usually, violence erupts because elections are not seen to be free, credible, and fair. That's usually the trigger. We have the underlying issues, which is what this document should have sorted out. But if the document itself tayari ina ukora kiasi flani, then nothing based on it can be purported to address the core issues that causes to go into conflict every time we have an election. Now, that said, kuna watu wanarushia wengine mawe unnecessarily, and they say you had a chance to present your views. That window closed, so you cannot say anything to us right now. Mimi, kutokana na experience yangu, I've been elbowed out of situations before, mara kadhaa. So history ya BBI nilijua lazima tujipange. So with a number of youth groups
Kitu umesoma
and organizations nimeipitia.
Umesoma?
Okay, nimepitia, nikapitia tena. Unanipata? Ile natafuta ni nini hasa tunaweza tukabadili ili mambo yawe safi. So
from wewe kupitia, what do you think is right and wrong with BBI?
Okay, mwanzo kabisa, acha nimalize tu hii point alafu nije hapo. Nilipenyeza idea zangu na hawa wenzangu, and we made views, and some of those views were captured.
Okay, you submitted your views to BBI?
Yes.
Wow, amazing.
Through a number of organizations. Zikawa captured. Zingine haziko. But sasa saizi unaambiwa kama huku present hauna haki ya kucriticize. Shut up and eat your tomatoes. That should not be the case. We have a voice, whether before or after. It should be listened to. Now, I'll tell you, this document has dangled some carrots, especially to the young people. Mambo na help, bapo sawa, ile tax holiday, safi. Lakini it did not address, first and foremost, issue ya kuleta Kenya pamoja. Now, why I say we are not sure which BBI document we are talking about is because last week, the governors could not agree on a consensus with regard to this document.
Yeah, sure.
Now, the other group that was in Naivasha, when they came out, their statement included an editing of the proposals in the BBI. Some people didn't notice that. But then, walipiga remix ya hizo vitu. Wansema tuna support, lakini hapo chini, kuna tu vitu wameguza. Now, like for instance, let me just say something. There is the 5% that's supposed to go to the ward development. The proposal, according to the BBI, should be based on the revenue that a county raises. But then what came out of Naivasha was it will be based on the shareable revenue. Now you see, the language there is different. So now there's a bit of ambiguity whether hii shareable revenue itakuwa nile inatoka kwa national government, itakuwa nile counties zimechukua. Now, that aside, the governors will come up with their own proposal. And I can assure you, by the time we are done with this conversation, there will be some very bad things in this document, including removal of term limits, either for the governors or even for the presidents. So
we are about to have an eternal president.
Well, we're going to have a real shake-up. That much I can tell you, judging by the way things are. Yes, so right now I'll say, and we are doing this every other day, tunachambua hii document. And people are bold. They are getting components of it and asking questions. And that's what I want us to keep doing. Because eventually, a question will be posed. And we should have a response. But then the referendum, when it comes, I can assure you it will not be based on this document solely. It's going to be something totally different. So it's immaterial to ask me if I support it or I oppose it, because this document will not be on the referendum.
You believe this document kuna ingine itatokea miezi bila BBI3?
Ukweli ni kwamba hata hatujakaribia swali la referendum. Let them implement what's good for us. Hizo zingine tuendelee kuongea, za kubadilisha tubadilishe, tuende mbele tukiwa pamoja. This process was not inclusive wakati ilianza. Vijana walitengwa. Sasa hii ndo nafasi ya sasa sisi vijana na nguvu yetu, with the enthusiasm, tupatiwe chance. Tusaidie sasa kwamba these are the contentious issues. It's our future. We have more stake than the people
than every other person
who are in charge. Tupatiwe chance tusoti kitu.
Alright. Wacha tuangalie magazeti kidogo. Gazeti ya Standard, let's see the Standard headline ya Standard pale juu inasema, that's what I actually want us to have a discussion on, but anyway, let me just draw the, first of all, my health. Jini so much and wachana na umesema my health, manu transplants to become a reality in Kenya. So very soon you can decide to change your tools when you want. County hospitals cripples are 6 Kenyan shillings, 6 billion PPEs lie idle at KEMSA. That is paralysis, lack of critical medical equipment due to inaction at government agency mobilizes counties, exposing health workers and patients to virus. As suppliers cry foul, the big question is now is who will come to their aid. Pale pia governors and MCS draw up demands to back BBI. Naona Oparanya Kabo leaders meeting Naivasha this week with a raft of demands they want met before supporting building bridges initiative. Beauty hourglass figure that comes at a huge cost. Pale mambo ya kina Rispa nasikia walienda wakanua mwili ingine 450,000. Isolated world leaders abandon Trump. The eye office slowly slipped away from an increasingly fallen American president who refused to concede defeat. Yesterday, a dark gloom hung over the White House upon the realization that Trump's second term had gone up in smoke following Joe Biden's election win. This is on 2, 3, 2, 6, and 7. Israel PM Netanyahu, congratulations to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Joe, we have had a long and warm personal relationship for nearly 40 years, and I know you as a great friend of Israel. Quite interesting. UK PM Boris Johnson, congratulations to Joe Biden. The US is our most important ally, and I look forward to working closely together on our shared priorities from climate change to trade and security. India PM Modi, congratulations to Joe Biden on your spectacular victory. I look forward to working closely together once again to take India and the US leadership to greater heights. I just want to look at what it means for the rest of the world, the win of Joe Biden. I've seen it has been covered by the Standard on page 5, where it says what Biden win means for the world. Na naona hapo kuna stories zimeletwa different regions, particularly when you're talking about China. Turns up after days of uncertainty, Joe Biden has won the U.S. presidential elections, BBC projection show. During Donald Trump's 4 years in office, America's relationship with the world changed profoundly. BBC reporters across the globe from Beijing to Berlin explained how news of Mr. Biden's victory is being received and what it could mean for key U.S. relationship. China, you might think that Beijing would be glad to see the back of Donald Trump. As China basher in chief, they hit them with a trade war, levied a raft of punitive sanctions, and badgered and blamed them for their coronavirus pandemic. But some analysts have suggested that the Chinese leadership may now be feeling secretly disappointed. Not because they have any lasting fondness to Mr. Trump, but because another 4 years of him in the White House held out the tantalizing prospect of a bigger prize. Divisive at home, isolated abroad. Mr. Trump seemed to Beijing the very embodiment of the long-anticipated and opt for decline in U.S. power. It was a message rammed home by the country's Communist Party controlled TV news bulletins. China might have, of course, tried to find an advantage on Joe Biden's willingness to seek cooperation on big issues of climate change. Very interesting. Looks like now China is actually sad that Trump is leaving because they wanted to disintegrate the power of America. It looks like it's a power war. India, the stories are long, but anyway, I think India for Monday, that's for India has long been in part of the US, and the overall direction of travel is unlikely to change under Biden presidency. South Asia's most populous nation will remain a key ally in America's Indo-Pacific strategy. Koreans, it's like the chairman Kim would have preferred another 4 years of Donald Trump. The leaders unprecedented meeting and follow-ups made for incredible for the history books, but very little substance was signed. All right, United Kingdom, they won't be seen as a natural allies. Joe Biden, the seasoned Democrat, and Boris Johnson, the bombastic Brexiteer, in looking at how their future relationship might work. It is worth considering the past, specifically that seminal year 2016 when Trump won the White House and the UK voted to leave EU. Both Joe Biden and his boss at the time, Barack Obama, made no secret they preferred another outcome on Brexit. So it looks like there is a bitter love affair between the countries that is going to come on board, different countries, and Joe Biden coming in. But the most interesting, the African presidents walichelewa kama walikuwa nafikiria stima itapotea. Trump already.
Hata sio Africans too. I hope you realize that Russia and China did not rush to give their congratulatory messages. That is telling, because if you look at the first term of the Trump presidency, Russia was dragged through that whole thing. And then, of course, the wrangles with China. Until now, I'm yet to confirm that they have congratulated Joe Biden. But then Africans, well, I think we were just happy that for once, whatever we've been doing in Africa had a chance to play out in the US. A lot of times fingers have been pointed to us that we cannot be tidy about our democracy. But for a couple of days, and I think it's going to continue, the US has showed that, yeah, democracy may not be so perfect. If we need to listen and carry everyone's voice on board, well, we should accept the imperfections. Sometimes there'll be a leader whose personality almost supersedes that of the institutions. And that should not be allowed to be, like we've seen in the US. So I guess Africans just wanted this to play a bit longer so that next time when they get it wrong, like we often do, will not be chastised as quickly as it happens.
There's something that MUTHIORA has mentioned, my good friend Majimbo, about guys supporting PBI during the day and in the night they are bashing the document. The story was on Daily Nation over the weekend. And I also read what happened at Movenpick when the governors were meeting. And the governors are saying, all right, they have a lot of reservations about the document, but because they fear being victimized. And I'm seeing the MCAs have given a raft of demands. I'm also seeing the government is really dilly-dallying. They don't want to make a statement. And they're saying that we fear that if we make a statement, these guys might come for us with all these bumped up accusations on corruption and all this. The DCI is on the watch. So the question is, all right, tuliambo tutakunywa kama penicillin, madawa ya malaria. What do you think it leaves people who have divergent views? Where are they left? Especially those in leadership.
In my view, that's the major undoing of the handshake, because we were told the handshake was coming to unite Kenyans, but as it's turning out, it's sidelining other Kenyans. Right now, if you express any divergent view on the handshake, you are likely to be pursued by the police. Police officers are being used to settle political scores. That is very unfortunate, Gerald, because in such a democracy, such a country like Kenya, where we are right now, we expect people to be honest. We expect leaders to be straightforward. When Raila and Uhuru had that particular handshake, we had high hopes that everybody would be on board, and that we would not see this kind of shenanigans where police officers and the DCI, also the Director of Public Prosecutions, are being used to settle political scores. It is true that some people are afraid to air their views on this particular document just because they know they will be pursued. Either they will be haunted by a corruption scandal that is non-existent, because you see most of us do business with the government, and you see the moment you do business with the government, they will come up telling you you did this particular business with the government, you were paid, you supplied nothing, and at the end of the day will come and find that that case will collapse. So I must express my concern about this kind of politics that is ongoing. Let us embrace divergent views. Let us accommodate people who want to air their views on this document. We cannot all agree. We cannot all agree about this report at this particular time. But if we are in a position to accommodate divergent views, the better, because we will reach a consensus. And if at all a referendum comes, we'll have a less contested referendum.
All right. MUTHIORA, yesterday, over the weekend, ODM has lost an election official in Kwale. That is where we are having a by-election. Musambweni, actually, there's an ODM official who have lost his life, and an as of died of COVID-19. Meanwhile, counties are struggling. That is the story on page on the Standard on the headline. County hospitals crippled as 6 Kenya shillings MPs lie idle at KEMSA. Lack of critical medical equipment due to inaction at government agency immobilizes counties, exposing health workers and patients to virus as suppliers cry foul. The big question is who will come to their aid? The question is, the president the other day was giving us raft of measures to not contain the virus. Does it mean that one of them is not releasing PPEs to hospitals?
Well, the thing is, we need to be very, very serious about holding the president accountable. Usually, he's big on talk, but when it comes to action, he dilly-dallies. He often does not deliver. So he will give these guidelines, but then he's the first to flout them. You saw what happened in Naivasha. He was there hugging people. How are we supposed to take him seriously when he says we should follow curfew guidelines? When he says we should, all that. Now, that aside, we should also look at this government in the eye and tell them that you cannot be the same people auditing yourselves and giving yourselves A's when it comes to the management of this pandemic. And unfortunately, they've been doing that. You hear them talking about how well they have handled this pandemic. And you wonder, is that in Kenya? Because in Kenya, just like that article captures, we have this equipment that's supposed to be taking care of our people, but it's not. It was bought at inflated prices. It's lying idle, and yet it's required by our frontline soldiers in this pandemic. So let us say we are far from getting it right with regard to COVID. The responsibility is solely yours, you as an individual. We all know what we need to do. Let's not wait for the fire brigade. It's not coming.
Tuanze kubeba maji na ndoo.
Chukua jukumu. Wewe kama baba pale nyumbani. Wewe kama mama. Mtoto ufuata ambavyo unaambiwa na wazazi. Serikali katika hii pandemic ina upungufu mkubwa. And unfortunately, like down in the estates, we have a lot of harassment by the police. It's not that they're enforcing the COVID measures. It's just that we opened another cash cow, another avenue for them to rake in money from Kenyans. So extortion has now descended to the very lowest level. It's unfortunate, but then the one thing we can do to beat this whole system is let's just do what we're supposed to do. Wear a mask whenever you're in public, sanitize, wash your hands, social distance, and then plan in advance kwamba hali ya afya ikibadilika, you seek medical care, but do not wait on the government to deliver you. We are beyond that point, and we have no capacity, let alone the willingness. Yeah.
Gerald,
even as we talk about directions, Majimbo, the president the other time said they were going to ban all the rallies. Now akasema kwamba now it's only town halls. I saw some meetings in stadium in Nyeri that happened just the other day. At what point is the president really serious about his directives?
I actually wanted to agree with what my brother said fully. And I want to add that we have the most dishonest leaders in Kenya, because when a scandal was announced at KEMSA, the cabinet secretary, Mutahi Kagwe, was the first person who came out to defend all the procurement processes at KEMSA, saying that no money has been lost. Now what do we have? We have people who are going to be prosecuted in court because money was actually lost. So you wonder if really the president was a serious person. The first person who was supposed to have gone home was CS Mutahi Kagwe, because he came out defending these people, yet they embezzled funds, they misappropriated funds. Now, coming to your second question about the president having banned rallies, but we still see this politician holding rallies. You see, in Kenya, we are never serious. And that's one of our main problems. Even in the next 1 or 2 weeks, you will see the president himself moving around holding rallies. That's one of the problems we face. If we are able to pass policies and follow them strictly, then we will be a super perfect country. But the problem is we pass policies, we pass laws, we pass regulations, but we use them to do other things the same way my brother said, extortion. We give the police officers a cash cow. We give them an avenue to extort innocent citizens. Yeah.
All right. You have any remarks on the same? MUTHIORA.
Well, I'll reiterate what I just said, that the responsibility is solely yours. And I'm glad, well, there is a front I can congratulate the government on, and that is the awareness has been created. Today, people no longer believe that COVID-19 is a fabrication. They know it's a disease and it's here. So since we have that awareness and we know what we need to do, please do not wait on someone to come and force those measures. Take responsibility. They say have a town hall meeting and enforce the guidelines. And then they go and have a meeting in a stadium. Since when did a stadium become a hall? For Christ's sake, that will be the biggest hole in the world. I think we need to change the definition of a hole.
All right. So we take a small break tusikie kuna video iko hapa, video of the day, tusikie video of the day, tukirudi tuweze kuchambua na kuna pia masuala ambazo zitafuata hapo on the issues to do with education. Leo tusikie kwanza mambo ya makoa. Mambo za makoa.
Sir, I send out a report. This is what needs to be done. This is being addressed.
Wrong. You are talking about the report. I'm talking about what is here on
Sir, you have noted. We are acting on it.
Can you step away from this meeting now? Wewe ni mjinga kabisa. Yes, sir. The county our CPE, town director. He doesn't understand the problem. So
All right, that is a county of education. That is the county director of education wa Singishu County and Makoa. Makoa alikuwa anamwambia nikisema ni mjinga nitakuwa nimedanganya. Wewe ni mjinga sana. Toka hapa, enda hapa. I mean, these are public servants. This is not a private. Kenya is not a private entity. Like now, this is my hardware. You know, I call the shots here. These are public servants that you pay tax. And what does that make you feel as a as a taxpayer, as a person? And what is it about public servants in Kenya? Does it mean that you need to be arrogant to be seen to be authoritative or to be working?
Of course not. When you have an opportunity to serve the people, it's an honor, it's a privilege. You should take it with humility. Unfortunately, Professor Magoha, who happens to have been my vice chancellor at the University of Nairobi, is one person with this bigger than life character and personality. And sometimes he feels he doesn't need to apologize to anyone. But one thing I need to remind him with a lot of humility, civility costs nothing. When you're handling people, please, if you can't be anything else, at least be kind, because that civil servant, for them to be where they are, they've given a lot. And I can assure you, even though sometimes we don't hit the right grade, people give their all, appreciate what they're doing, and even when they are wrong, find a civil way to communicate with them. Do not denigrate them like he did there. It's not right. It should be called out. And I hope others are watching as well. I remember his CAS, a young guy. There's a time he visited some office, and in the same manner, he was talking down to people older than himself and threatening about how he would even fire them. I think this is a bad culture that the old professor is instituting in the Ministry of Education, and he should desist going forward.
Majimbo,
Yes.
what does that make you feel?
I want to say that I understand Professor Magoa very well. We know he is a strict man, but the way he behaved was a bit out of order, because you cannot go on belittling a fellow human being in public. You know, in our constitution, we have an elaborative Bill of Rights. And one of the rights we have is a right to dignity. So you see, when you start talking down to a fellow individual in that kind of manner, of course you are infringing on their right to dignity. In proper democracies, this warrants a dismissal. In fact, because there's already been a public outcry, we would have seen the CS take that step and step aside or resign from that particular office, because this actually stinks in the face of Kenyans. Yeah, you cannot go on belittling Kenyans in the public. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the safety of also children, because I saw the other day the president say that the children can remain in school, but he's saying that the pandemic is running and there are all these management measures. We have already seen cases that have come out of coronavirus in Nakuru and to other schools that have come out, Mombasa, and all that. We even lost a teacher in Mombasa. I mean, what do you feel in the strategy of the way the government is managing the COVID virus, and also the way it's mismanaging children? Are we trying to say that the children are going to fight it out, but the adults cannot?
The truth of the matter is our strategy is not based on facts or science. I would have loved for Kemri to come out someday and tell us this is why the virus is not affecting us as badly here in Kenya as it's doing in Europe or the US. Because the truth is, the virus is not as potent in Kenya or Africa as it is in those other countries. Now, when you act on something like this without facts, backed by science, then it's what I would say in Swahili, ni kama unapapasa kwa giza. Aujui utaibuka na nini. You could end up hurting your hand on a sharp object or stuff like that. So it's regrettable that our children are in the hands of people who are not serious about their job. You remember the first case that was reported about schools was Kolanya. Randomly, out of 100, there were 52 positive cases. They've not come back to us to tell us if they tested everyone else, because they just tested 100, left the others, and from these 100, they got 52 who were put in quarantine. Is anyone following? I don't think so. And why are we not following? You can imagine if you are a parent and your child is in such a school, what you go through. Because number one, they tell you, you cannot pick your child from school. And then number two, information is not forthcoming. And I'm privileged that often people reach out to me and they tell me about what's going on the ground. So this government needs to do better than it's doing. Our children are not safe in those schools. But then they're not safe at home either. What we need to do is what I mentioned earlier. Let's just take personal responsibility. It's true that when you get the virus, it could put you down. But then let us not be afraid that once you get sick, you'll not recover. We've seen a very high recovery rate. So let's not panic. Let's just push to follow the guidelines as they've been given to us. Let's demand more from our government. You saw health workers going on strike last week. That hasn't been resolved yet. Yes, we have our courts pronouncing themselves on the matters, but then the government during a pandemic like this should address the needs of the medical caregivers so that we do not have the unfortunate situation we have right now.
All right. What are your thoughts, Majimbo?
Without watering down all the advances that have been made to mitigate COVID-19, I would say that in Kenya we are doing that what we call kuflona current. When other countries announce that they have COVID, that's what we do. When they announce that now they are facing a second wave, that's what we purport to do. But tunasema pia sisi tuko nayo. If you look at the matrix we use to determine COVID-19 deaths in Kenya, it does not make sense at all. Because today, if I had COVID, then I go out there and I'm hit by a motor vehicle, they would say I died because of COVID. That doesn't make sense at all. Let the Ministry of Health change the matrix of determining COVID-19 deaths. I want to agree with my brother MUTHIORA that this virus is not as potent as it has been reported in other countries. And when I come to the issue of schools, I must say that it was a grave mistake to reopen schools when the year 2020 had primarily been done. The announcement that the president made the other day that schools reopen in January 2021, that was the proper approach to take, because we had already wasted the whole year. What was the rush? There was no rush at all. So there was no need for us to take back our kids to school, then make them guinea pigs. Go test them. You know, right now, if they come to this room and test test us for COVID-19, they will find some of us have this particular virus, but we are okay. We are surviving. We are healthy. I have myself done a study, and I was telling my friend that right now they have tested close to, it's not 1 million Kenyans, but maybe 500 or 600, and we have close to 60,000 cases. If they were to test 50 million Kenyans right now, that means we would have more than 10 million people testing positive for this particular virus. What does that mean? There are Kenyans who have this virus, but of course we are not dying. Yeah, so let us change our approach about COVID-19. I remember when we started, the state came about with some regulations. Actually, they were draconian. They were used to punish people who were flouting the rules. You know, when they arrest you on the road past the curfew rules, they take you into an isolation center, and you do not have any. You are not infected. In fact, you go there and get infected. So our approach about this virus has been different. In fact, people have said that we were pretending to have this particular virus so that we could get some money from those international organizations, which if you put me in a corner, I would tend to agree with.
Until you put you in a corner, you'll not agree.
Okay. Just allow me to add this. COVID is serious business. COVID took Donald Trump home. There is over 70 million US citizens who believe that Donald Trump should be given a second term because he governed that country's economy better than a lot of other presidents have done. And they thought he deserves it. Just about 4 million more believed in Biden. Here in Kenya, we don't think that the management of COVID is such a serious thing. We should wake up. This is a pandemic. It has affected our economy. It has affected our social life. It has basically affected every sector of our life. Tuache kuchukua hii kitu rahisi. Hilo ndo ombi langu.
All right. Let's get back as we talk about American elections in America. Let's also discuss Tanzanian elections. MPs in Tanzania are running to Kenya seeking political asylum. In fact, Tundu Lissu alikuwa amekimbia pale embassy ya Germany pale Tanzania anatafuta asylum. Do you think pale pia Museveni amevunja miguu kina Bobby Wine? You know, scary things happening there. And actually, technically, I think Museveni has seen almost all the presidents of America. What is it about democracy and Africa? What will democracy ilikoseana in Africa?
Well, it's just that Africans after an election do not feel that they have a responsibility left. Kwamba sisi ni twende tupige kura au wenye tumechagua wafanye mambo yao. But you see, democracy ina maana kwamba baada ya uchaguzi mimi kama mwananchi nina jukumu la uzalendo kuhakikisha kwamba ahadi ambazo zilitolewa zinatimizwa. Tukiwa na kiongozi kwa mfano kama Magoha hivyo ambavyo ana kashifu na kukemea na kukejeli wadogo zake na yeye ni mtumishi wa umma, we call them back in line. So our worst undoing is we let these big men be, and that should change. Museveni, well, it's true, he rose or ascended to power through the barrel of a gun, and maybe we might need to get him off through the same mechanism, but he's done saving that nation. Right now he's taken it back to where it was when he took over. But unfortunately, the people around him, because they are afraid of losing whatever privilege comes with that clout, they won't face him and tell him that, boss, imetosha hapa sasa, unachoma. In Tanzania, they had an election, and this takes me back to the thing about democracy. You have wolves and you have a sheep, and you say, let's vote what we're going to have for dinner. It doesn't work like that. Tanzania has had this culture of people, even though they support the ruling party, those who dissent elect their own MPs. Now, tell me, how popular is CCM? Remember, it has not transformed people's lives. Yes, they have done a bit of work on infrastructure, on the port, on the airport, but then people's lives have not undergone transformation. How then do you cut down the number of opposition MPs from as many as they were to just 2? A president rising from whatever he got to 84% within just that short duration of time, amidst a period where human rights abuses have hit a record high. You talk about the media facing the worst kind of victimization, and you tell me it's okay? Come on, let's face it. Kuna dunia ya juzi, kuna ya jana. Kenya tuko ya jana, Tanzania
tuko ya juzi.
Ya juzi.
Ya juzi ama ile siku nyingine kabla ya juzi.
Sasa huko tafadhali wakaribie kwenye karne ya 21 ambapo sauti za watu ndio wengi wape, lakini wachache wasikize. Hiyo ndo demokrasia. Now when they run away, it's because the threat is real. Tundu Lissu was shot severally. There was an attempt on his life, and not once, but a number of times. So I hope countries such as Kenya will offer them refuge and asylum, because the threat in Tanzania is real. That's why to date, watu wana COVID, hata kama hawafi, the cases are not reported because the media there imekanyagiwa chini. Yeah.
All right. Majimbo.
Well, when I look at Kenya and compare to Uganda and Tanzania, you know, sometimes I feel proud because we've been able to enhance our media freedom. Our media can freely speak about issues. What is happening in Tanzania and Uganda is that Magufuli and Museveni are reading from the same script with the likes of Kina Adolf Hitler, Mussolini. These are true fascists. Because you see in Tanzania, Magufuli has managed to create an illusion that things are being done in a proper way. He has managed to make people happy. People are thinking that his kind of leadership is what they need. So when it dawns on them, when they realize that things are not proper, and it normally happens, and it will happen. We remember the Soviet Union when they were changing leadership. When the new leadership came into place, now that's when people realized that we were being lied to. This is what is going to happen in Tanzania. When Magufuli gets out of power and we have a new person who's not a puppet, we have a new person who wants to come in and bring in 1 or 2 changes, people will realize that Magufuli was messing them. Right now we know that in Tanzania the media is not allowed to report any cases about COVID-19. It's because it is there, but they are creating an illusion that it is not there. In Uganda, Museveni instills fear in people. The other day, Bobby Wine went and handed in his nomination papers. Immediately he finished, Museveni sent his police officers, they arrest Bobby Wine. The same thing has been doing to Besigye. I don't know if he's going to run again. So he rules by instilling fear. Even the citizens themselves, they fear him, because if you dare make any comments about his style of leadership, people, those police officers, I don't know if they're police officers or it's the army, they deploy them to come after you, they harass you, they frustrate you, they arrest you. This is the kind of leadership we saw in the 1945, the old century, where people were intimidated, people were threatened just because you want to rule by fists. It's not welcome in this era, in this particular century.
All right. Kuna pia story hapa, unajua mambo ya education na ina mambo kweli. Inasemekana kwamba headmasters wameanza kuiba desk, wanasema the state wants headmasters again stealing state wants over desk theft by 8 teachers. And one of the most surprising things I was asking myself is, what was the common sense of getting desks from Nairobi to take them to Shamagoko or to Bomola? And I was saying actually there is some desk that was refused by government, made from bamboo. umekataa kwamba wezi chukua. The question was, why could we not localize these procedures getting tests for schools?
That's because devolution happened, and when you devolve things, pesa inaenda mashinani. So inakuwa vigumu wewe kuiba. One of the reasons why they pushed to open our schools was so they could open budget ya Ministry of Education. Wapate justification ya kutumia pesa. Sasa wao ku centralize ilikuwa ili that jar from which they always pick isiwe iko mbali sana. That much I can tell you. It wasn't about quality. No, it wasn't. I have a group of ex-convicts who won a tender to make these desks. And from the talk by the Ministry of Education, it was they were supposed to fund them, at least wapatie 50% wafanye kazi for everyone who got the tender. But I can confirm here now that these people who are trying to rebuild their lives did not get the boost that they needed. So the tender they have is not worth anything more than the paper. I can say these people are not looking to deliver service. First, ilikuwa njia ya kutoa pesa kwa coffers. And that's why initially the plan was to have all the resources in the national government and then of course disburse it through the county commissioners. Now these cases will continue because there's nowhere we can take them. Impunity thrives in Kenya. When you hear that a headmaster has now decided to also ajijenge pia kila mtu anakula mimi mnaniletea desk hiyo pia ndo nitaponyoka nayo. It's this culture tumezoea kwamba penye uko
lazima kulia hapo.
Which is wrong.
Anasema punda inakula urefu wa kamba yake.
Okay, hiyo ni sawa, lakini urefu wa kamba ya mhudumu wa umma ni ule mshahara ambao anapata na marupurupu halali. Ridhika. If you want to be rich, don't be employed to earn a salary. Go out there, follow a revolutionary idea. You'll be wealthy.
What?
But if you're in the public service, please remember pillar number 1 is integrity.
Pambana na mambo ya wananchi.
Hapo humanity. Humanity.
All right. Ndio maana ito public service. All right. Sana you guys can call in. Bunge iko wazi 0779-800-010 or 779-800-010. You can call in and contribute to the discussions that are going on this morning. But meanwhile, wacha niangalie comments. Emmanuel Kipsang anasema, Mero Gerald, I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Welcome to the land of President Biden. Tutakuja, we will come. Sasa now Biden is our uncle, so we'll have to come to America. Bile anasema, good morning Kenya. Good morning to you. Pauline Cheraro na namba yake pia. Emmanuel Kipsang anasema, Trump is tough but bullying man. All right. Ni mtu mzuri lakini kiburi ndio mingi. John Musema anasema, this state is nothing. We the people, we have power to change the story. George Orwenyo anasema, which things? Emmanuel Kipsang anasema, I think Trump should move to Africa for those who say they support him because he behaves like African leaders. Geriodis Okongo anasema, deep state exists everywhere and not only in government but it's incorporated in media, in organization, even in our families. Jafet Sang anasema, following from Nairobi. Richard Michael Obere and some BBI report must be relooked into, otherwise it will not pass. Ramadan Ishmael, tuambie Bitok vipi mambo ya Trump ama Miguna atamwapisha. Nimesikia ameanza kutoka polepole, jana alikuwa anacheza golf, so I think he's on his way out and we wish him well. Omosike bwana sema, Rebecca Momanyi, you are okay. Njara yoga. Naona familia zimeanza kupatana hapa, asante sana. Welcome to the tackle. Derek Peter anasema, uko wapi for now? Ibrahim Katiana anasema, Ole Katiana Ibrahim from Kajiado, nawapata live and clear. Congrats panelists, we like minded guys like you. Wish you all the best. Thank you so much. David Marukamau anasema, governors are advocating to have power to fire their deputies and also choose their deputies. By the way, you also need to look at that. Emmanuel Kipsang anasema uko all right. Ramadan Kishman anasema, Bitok, there was rumors that Trump would not hand over power to Biden. How do you say about this? By the way, America si Africa. Huwezi kuwa na power. America, you see, even elections before they were through, Biden was already getting state security. So it tells you how these guys take seriously the running of the
And
government
that's how we should all do it.
Kama ingekuwa hapa ingekuwa unasikia ati kuna jamaa amekataa kutoka amekwamilia sahani ya State House sijui mwingine kifungu ya kuingia State House, you know, a lot of crazy things. So by the way, my brother Ramadhan Ishmael uko America ni America bana. Si hapa kiama iko Kenya. Nick Tarus anasema watching from Melbourne. Thank you Ramadhan Ishmael anasema ama tupeleke BBI yuko. By the way, these guys need BBI. We need to deal with the winner, take it all. But no, Biden has taken it all. So we need to take BBI there.
One thing these guys have that we don't have is they have strict adherence to the rule of law. That's something that BBI cannot cure. We will change our constitution, but as long as we do not adhere to the rule of law, tutakuwa pale pale. So hii porojo ya iti tuwapelekee BBI, hakuna huko atafuata sheria. On the 20th, Trump atarudi Trump Towers, Biden atakuwa White House, and we'll have a better new world order.
All right. I can only hope, because tulisikia siku ile Trump pia akiingia we'll have a new world order. Anyway, naona Sakonke Black anasema the handshake. Naona Kipsanga amekaribisha nani Washington DC, watu wa America wameanza kukaribishana. Sakonge Black anasema the handshake and BBI project has only been for two people, compounded with government machineries that are ready to bully to submission. Anyone has a healthy Kenyan view that goes counter to their Raila and Uhuru selfish mission. Alex Purity anasema morning my people. Good morning to you Alex Purity. Anasema Ramadan anasema America is strong and has real constitutional. There is no way Trump wouldn't go home when our rent is due. It's due. No nonsense of negotiation or blah blah excuse, but check out on exact day. Emmanuel Kapsanga anasema Majimbo, please, that discussion about COVID-19 funds is overtaken by BBI as cover up since Uhuru family is part of the corrupt people who benefited from the sick people. What? And Brian anasema ni jambazi. Sakome anasema Makoa is full of himself and arrogant, and the braggadocio and lack of wisdom will devour Makoa. He doesn't know how to handle his juniors. You should invite him silently and tell his junior how to make things better. I think so. Manuel anasema Gerald Bitok, Magoa was mad because his colleague Trump was beaten up. He exactly behaved like former president, bullying and innocent. When I say watching from Turkana, Turkana, Ellen Koskian said that is very sad because everyone should express his or her views according to how things goes. So Magoa should behave like a learned person, not like somebody who was not joined pre-unit, even pre-unit. Sakona tunasema kupapaza giza sitamaliza. Ramadan anasema Emmanuel Kipsang, what was swearing do you think Miguna would swear in Trump since Miguna had requested to swear Trump? I think Kenyans, you take a lot of serious a lot of things online very seriously. Gaddafi, tumba namba, wacha kulia sana ya time, tumba namba yako. Nasema 3 weeks, please send me your number on inbox. Just anasema clear discussion with Yoran Majimbo, keep it up bros. Asante sana. Vincent Rimoy anasema watching live from Tokyo, Japan. Asante sana to Tokyo, Japan. Emmanuel Kipsang anasema Vincent Rimoy, saa nipe digits zako au is Japan tafadhali. Ningependa kusema na wewe kuhusu kunitafutia ndaisa niite Mr. Kipsang at Washington DC. Alright. Naona biashara pia tako linaingiana. Kipkorir Moses anasema good show, the great son of Kenya. Thank you so much sir Kipkorir Moses. Rebecca Manyasema anasema likewise COVID-19 mess up everything. Poleni watu ambao walifinywa na corona. Yatora Isa kaza Bungoma watching, asante sana. Reng Maka anasema watching Reng daily, kindly like and follow. Alright. Unaweza kimbia pale uangalie page ya Reng. Wewe ni wakili Majimbo. The surrender of lawyer, the lawyer nane Gisheru, Paul Gisheru's lawyer surrender to ICC. What does it mean?
Of course, the surrender of Paul Gisheru has been laced with a lot of rumors.
Because some rather came out last week and said that the president does not have any interest of reviving the ICC cases.
Definitely, that's what we are being told. In fact, he himself was confirming before the ICC chambers that he surrendered himself. He did not surrender himself under any coercion. But of course, when we come back home, there are a lot of rumors going on that there could be some quarters that, of course, coerced him to go and give some testimonies that would implicate some people on the ground. But the fact that he has surrendered to the ICC chamber, you know, it does not mean that he will go there and give information and walk scot-free. If he is found out to be guilty of the offense he's charged with, he will be sentenced and he will be jailed there. So it is also it's also something that he needs to balance properly, because in the first place, why was he running away? He should have surrendered a long time ago when he was needed immediately. But it's very suspect for him to surrender this particular time when we know clearly that we have some political differences back at home. It's an issue that we need to look at keenly. We need to investigate. Last week I saw a video that surfaced. Alai shared a video that the former senior counsel Mutula Kilonzo, alluding to some information that there are some people who had been, paid to not to give their testimonies to ICC. So there's a lot that is going to come up definitely, and I can say is that we'll wait and see what will happen to this particular surrender. I know there are some people also who might the ICC chamber might come and look for certain individuals after that particular information has been given, and if it's found to be credible.
Then I might start pursuing them. All right, as I throw it to you, MUTHIORA, I would say keep still and some thanks so much, Gerald. The show is so insightful, following from Doha. Sana to Doha. Thank you so much, to Doha. What do you make of that, MUTHIORA?
The truth is, in 2007, Kenyans' lives were needlessly lost, others maimed, property destroyed. Someone, somewhere, is guilty of something. We never got to the bottom of the matter. But that said, our president made a declaration after he was cleared of the ICC charges that no Kenyan will be tried out there. I'm hoping that he's going to come through for that statement. Well, it could be a bit too late, but I guess they could have conversation with the ICC. Let Gicheru come back here and let's do these as a sovereign state.
So who do you think is pushing? What's going on? Where is this narrative coming from?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to read malice. The truth is, the guilty are always afraid and they keep running. Gicheru could have interfered with the ICC investigations and cases. So he needs to face the law. Justice needs to be served to the victims. So as far as I know, it's people finally doing what they should have done a long time ago. Yes.
All right. Majimbo, there's a conversation that it's a certain individual that's being targeted, actually, in the person of the deputy president. That is always being targeted. And there's already emotions that is flying around on what it means for him and what it doesn't. In case it heads where they are saying that they are actually targeting him, what could be the possibility, actually, in a nation that's already polarized? Right now, we are fighting about BBI. These and these are betrayed. This one and this one. There's politics that's going on over. What does it mean? Especially at the point where you want to talk about uniting the country.
That's a very sensitive issue, because 207 leaves a serious curse among Kenyans. And you see, when the name of the deputy president starts being thrown around, it actually raises emotions among certain people. You see, I do not like visiting that particular kind of a scenario that happened in 207, because people fought, people got killed, and it was a tribe against each other. Tribe went against other tribes. If we continue in this particular manner, we will also see that kind of unfortunate circumstances also starting to rise up. Tempers will also start rising up, and that's how people get polarized, and we have people that will come about, start fueling wars and making statements that incite people on the ground. So it's an issue that we do not necessarily need to keep on bringing up the name of the DP into this particular debacle. The same way my brother said, if Paul Gicheru is guilty, he will be found guilty, he will be sentenced, he will be jailed. I must say it does not necessarily need to happen here. He surrendered himself to the ICC. Let the process go there. If it's a credible process, let it happen. And if he's found guilty, let him be jailed. We finish these things and move on.
The song.
Gerald, lisemwalo lipo na kama halipo laja. There is smoke somewhere, which means there is fire. I'm a victim of the 2007 chaos. What was done to my family affects me to date. Justice has never been served. We know that the greatest beneficiaries of whatever happened then was the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki. They should have taken the most responsibility. Nobody went after them. Our president, the deputy president, went to the ICC together with others. The matter was not conclusively settled. If we are going to revisit, if this is something that we are serious about, let all the stones be turned. Let's go under there.
And we start afresh.
And let's heal these. Not for our own sake, but for the sake of the future of this nation. There are people who to date are still very bitter. At least I got over the bitterness. But then the remains of what was our home, it's there. You go to Kedoa in Kericho County, the building is still there. Even the money they gave out to help victims restart, waliiba. So
the same guys in government.
Yes, the people who benefited most ended up being the perpetrators, because the victims then walikuwa wamefurushwa. Sasa hii issue kama tumeirejelea, nasema tutoe koti, tukunje shati, let's get into the mud. Remember what I said earlier. The greatest beneficiary ilikuwa Raila Amolo Odinga na Mwai Kibaki. 2007 election iliibiwa. Everybody knows that. Can we start there? Let those who bear the most responsibility, and I guess my learned friend here will tell you, let them, au ndo wafuatiliwe. There is a president, sijui ni Serbia ama ni wapi, step aside. Amesema okay, hii story imeniguza, nilifanya, let the law take its course. Can we have that here for once? If indeed we mean well for Kenya. Hii hata inatosha, tuseme BBI kando. Maybe we can start the reconciliation process by going backwards from 2017, 2007, evil. 1963 is not so far away. Some countries like the US have a longer history than ours, and yet they've resolved most of it, and they are great because of that. Tusiguzaguze, acha nyundo yanguke comprehensively.
Tuanze 1963. That's quite sentimental. Pole sana about your family. Pole sana. Really, pole for that. And you know, these guys play politics with things that really affect people personally. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we go wrong.
And
because, you know, we make it podium business. There's no emotion about it. But there's someone else who, whenever we bring that issue, it brings up other issues. I don't know.
And just to add something else. So, in 2007, we were uprooted from Kericho County. Tukakimbilia Nairobi. So in 2017, I was in Kawangware. And you remember NASA Jubilee?
Yeah.
And we had all that tension in the informal settlements. Bezi yangu wa Kawangware. Wakati huo nilikuwa sana niko busy bombers. But can you imagine having gone through what happened in 2007 and then every day when I leave bombers, I wasn't sure that I was going to get home because of the tensions that had been inflamed. And we had all these people baying for blood over what they don't even know. And then our leaders take it for granted. They think that this is a sport. Maisha ya watu tunaweza cheza nayo tu. hao watu ambao wameanza kuchora hii axis kwamba Gisheru DP they would better be ready to go the whole hog. Let us, as in, hii tusicheze nayo. It's people's lives.
Kama tunarudie turudie yote.
Ni kila kitu, tumwage mboga, tumwage ugali. Unanipata?
Yeah.
Let's have a clean slate. It's not a joke. This is life. People are going to lose their lives. You see, like, over the weekend I heard that in Marakwet, two young people were shot and killed. They'll never come back. And then our leaders want to play politics with that. No, we need to hold these people responsible. If you talk because you have a mouth, kumbuka kwamba that mouth can do something else. You can use it to drink water. Unaweza kula na pia unaweza funga. It helps. Ndani ya huo mdomo hata kuna bacteria na germs zina find shelter. Maybe that's a more useful way of using your mouth. If opening it, italeta uchochezi. Please, let's not play with people's lives.
Alright. Umesikia viongozi, tucheze na maisha ya watu.
Briefly, just in response to what my friend has said, and without necessarily hurting your feelings, because I understand that you were affected in the 207 violence, pole sana. But what I must say is that, you know, ICC as a court of law, it also has principles, it has doctrines, and it has rules that govern it. And you see, one of the major principles that govern a court of law is the principle of atrophua acquit and atrophua convict. So in our constitution, we call it the principle of double jeopardy. So that essentially means that if you've been taken to a court of law and the court has acquitted you, it has found that the case brought against you does not stand, you cannot be taken back to that particular court under the same facts, similar evidence. The only thing that can happen is that when they come back around, they need to come up with new individuals and or new offenses. But they cannot take back those particular individuals who were taken before under the same similar facts and similar offenses. It will be defeated in a court of law unless the cases were withdrawn under a similar section we have in Kenya that we call 87A. We normally withdraw a case and say that we will reintroduce it later when we get witnesses. Yeah.
Gerald, patia watu kama hawa microphone, wa-educate umma. Umesikia venye ameisema kwamba utaratibu wa sheria ni A, B, C, D. Lakini hawa watu wengine wenye hearsay ambao nia yao ni kugawanya na kuchochea, tafadhali, let us kill them politically by denying them our audience, our time. Let's not talk about them. Au ndo maadui halisi wa Kenya. Let's empower power like what he just told us here.
Wow. All right. That's a very thorny issue. Na ikifika mambo ni personal inakuwa ni ngori kidogo, but we hope Kenyans are going to listen, especially leaders. You know, Kenyans hawananga shida until these guys come and tell us, you know, this guy is MUTHIORA, this guy is MAJIMBO. We usually don't have a problem with each other. So we are not going to revive these things for political expediency. What's left to see? But anyway, sisi wa Kenya pia inafaa tuchanjaruke. Uje utuleta hizo mapuzi, we did with them. Charity Kitur, mimi nasema great show, keep it up. Ashak the tackle. Brian keep quiet. My brother all the way from the USA anasema watching from the West. Thank you. Gili keep boy anasema watching from the States. I stay awake to watch the show, Gerald. Thank you so much, Gili. Asa Kongi Black anasema reviving ICC cases like an almost ill wound, then scratched it and added chilies. Just leave a grenade to explode it. Let's put these cases behind us. I don't smell anything good from it. It's all boss Burgana anasema ICC is just but a wound. Manikasa anasema that is a good question to Atwali and Murade. Richard Maisho anasema tax holidays and help the farmers won't give you young Kenyans capital to start businesses. Neither will they sustain the existing ones. A good about distribution of resources and equal opportunity for us as for all, as well as equal rights before the law will help this country. I think there's these comments on BB. As we're heading to our tail end, my friend, hii mambo ya parties, new parties and young people running for office, where is the future? Kwanza nasikia huko kwako kuna kashfa ya ownership ya party wako ya TNG.
Hiyo ulisikia wapi?
Mimi nilisikia.
Gerald,
there's a conflict.
We are trailblazing. We want to show people how things should be done, and we've been doing it. The pillars of the Great Nationhood Party of Kenya ni integrity, patriotism, character, courage, vision, action. We don't just throw these as punchlines. These form the backbone of our lives. The people who founded these. And we are urging others. Hata kama mbeleni kidogo uliteleza, ungama, Mungu atakusamehea, karibu. We can make Kenya great. Now, this is our realization. Kwamba ile meza will never have space. Tuachia wa jamaa hiyo meza yao chafu. Let us have our own table. Let us determine our future. Over 75% of Kenyans are below 35 years. Very soon, you'll not be in that age category. Utakuwa in the minority. Sai venye bado uko hapo una nguvu, you have a whole life ahead of you, make it count. It's possible. We can make Kenya great. We can be patriotic. I would like for us to live as brothers, as sisters, as one family. We are endowed with a lot of resources, and thankfully we have this culture of hard work. And people from around the world trust what Kenyans have to offer. Let's get it right from amongst ourselves. Watu wakaribie TGN, waingie kwenye mtandao, wajiandikishe. We are not looking for followers, we are looking for members. Tunatafuta watu ambao kikweli watapigania Kenya. Bila kuuliza Kenya itawapa nini, manake tayari ishawapa taifa. Give back to your motherland so that the next generation will find a better country than what it is today. It's possible. Let's make Kenya great.
Right. As I give it to Majimbo, niangalia comments pia hapa kidogo. Aona Nick Tarut anasema double jeopardy, it won't work for Atwali and Mrathe. Jackie anasema I feel for MUTHIORA, I come from Kericho County but do not support what happened. Is there a way MUTHIORA and others can be facilitated to go back to their former homes and maybe sell land if they do not want to settle back there? Mali ya mtu ni ya mtu, period. I think this is a conversation that we should be having. As we're talking about building, reconciling and building consensus, we should be talking about all guys. This is what happened. Is it possible that we revert back and get back to where life was? But before we fix those mistakes, I don't think we even have a conversation uniting this country. The fundamental issues must be dealt with. Let's go back to the Waki report. Let's go back to the Ndungu land report. Let's wind this thing back and say, okay, land, shamba mtu alipoteza tunarudi inaenda inapatikana wapi. There are people who are actually kicked out of their land in 1963. Those people still live as paupers in this country. We need to revisit that. The election violence in 2007 is not about saying, okay, guys, let's forgive each other, let's love each other and move forward. We must go back and say, the people who are displaced, are they back on their land? If they're not back on their land, is there a way they can dispose of land? Because we cannot talk about healing when we still have people like MUTHIORA who still have an history or the same thing that we are. That's what BBI should be all about. These stories of jibadilisha katiba, nini. Ethics cannot be fixed by a document. That's what I feel. I don't know. I could be wrong. Naona Emmanuel Kisema Jackie gone very true. Kericho leaders must wake up and think big well. We all Kenyans should love and show difference away from selfish leaders. Pekesema, good morning, Team Tackle, always tuned. Thank you so much, Kerich. As already, Majimbo, what do you think is the position of young leaders as we move to 2022?
First of
we seem to be making a lot of noise and not making any traction.
I must also say that I forgot to mention that I'm an organizing secretary of the Roots Party of Kenya.
Kwa kina Wajakoyo.
Kwa kina Wajakoyo. We had a few
Bombo clad.
Yeah. I had a few differences with my party leader, but we managed to resolve our differences. I want to encourage the young people of Kenya that, it's never late. Our time is now. the next coming election, let us all go out there and run for office. Our president in the Law Society of Kenya, Nelson Harvey, has encouraged us to go out there and run for office. Because you see, we as young people, just the same way my brother MUTHIORA said, we need a table. We need a seat on that table. We can only champion for our own issues when we are there. But when you send there a few greedy individuals who go there and get compromised, you will not get anything. But if a majority of us, substantial number, go out there, run for office, and we win a few positions here and there, it doesn't matter whether you have money, it doesn't matter whether you are rich or not. Go to the ground, convince people, give people your manifesto, give people your agenda. We will get these positions. Myself, I'm positioning myself to run for Senator Kakamega County, and because I believe the Senate is a proper house where I can champion issues of devolution. There's no problem. Me BBI pia sisi tunailima. Hatuiachi, hatutapumzika. My name as Majimbo suggests that I'm supposed to champion for devolution, and that's what I'm going to do.
Majimbo ataleta Majimbo. What's your tackle of the day, MUTHIORA?
Hii BBI ningeomba tuichukulie na uzito kwamba tumeahidiwa italeta mabadiliko hapa Kenya. Lakini mabadiliko ya kweli ni kutoka kwako wewe binafsi. Ujue kwamba ni jukumu lako kuinua Kenya ili Kenya liwe taifa kuu. Inawezekana kwamba katika uchaguzi taifa liwe na utulivu. Maendeleo ili yapatikane ni lazima tuwe na mazingira ya amani. Let us live as brothers and sisters. We are a family. Our athletes have shown us how great Kenya is. Our scientists. We've even produced great leaders who have gone to show the world in those international organizations just what great potential this nation has. If you have it in you, please volunteer yourself to serve. The only way that the quality of leadership in Kenya is going to improve is by you who has not stepped forth coming forward. We already know how pathetic what we have is. If you're disappointed by it, please take the challenge
and change it.
Step forward. We have parties that have come up. We have platforms where you can engage. Please do not wait on someone else to be the change that you want to see. Be that change. You can do it. We all can make a difference. We all should try. Let's make Kenya great.
Majimbo.
If BBI is not going to accommodate divergent views, we are going to fail it. That is my tackle of the day. But I want to send a message to our leadership. Kindly, let us be people-centered. Let us avoid being self-centered. The problem we have in Kenya today is that our leaders are self-centered. If you look at this BBI document, they have brought about a lot of provisions that are in that document. Most of them are just in there to confuse people. The tax holidays, HELB, the ward kitty, those are provisions to confuse people, but there are hidden agendas that are in this particular report, this particular document. And that's why I'm saying our leaders are self-centered. They must first of all make sure they cater for their own interests before catering for the interests of the common mwananchi. If we were honest about our problems, we would not see this kind of document being placed before us. We would have a good document. In fact, some of these proposals were not made by the common mwananchi. They came from nowhere. We do not know where they came from. They are just a few individuals who made sure that they sneaked in those provisions so that they could accommodate their interests. So I want to tell our leaders, please, for once, forget about, they have already made money, they are rich. Let us focus on the people. Let us enhance the common mwananchi, the hustlers, the people who are in informal settlements. Those are people we need to focus on.
Muthiora, you have something?
Kutekeleza katiba sio pendekezo. Pendekezo la BBI kuhusu kina mama ni kwamba ikiwa governor atakuwa wa kiume, naibu wake awe wa kike. Hilo ni pendekezo, sio amri. We are talking about inclusivity. Ya tafakari hayo.
Alright. Naona kuna jamaa analalamika anasema simu haiendi through. Na simu iko wazi. Labda kama kuna shida leo lakini nitaangalia baadaye. Naona kuna watu wanalalamika wanasema simu haingii. I don't know what's going on. Julian anasema good morning Bitok, my good morning Gerald Bitok, good morning my brother. This number I have tried many times, it doesn't go through. I don't know how other people get the line, but I have a lot of my views in your program, which is good, and I have a lot of things to express out concerning BBI. The chairman of Jubilee Party in Nyanza region, I have a lot of issues to talk about, especially when it comes to peace in Nyanza here at the time of elections. Nambari iko wazi, lakini sasa kwa sababu tunafunga, lakini sijui labda kuna shida ya simu leo, tutaenda kuangalia tujue shida iko wapi. Naona kuna watu walalamika wanasema simu haikuji. Acha niangalie kama kuna Saidi Peter anasema following from Malaba. Asante sana watu wa Malaba. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you. It's all a pleasure to have you. We have to have you again, and you need to take your positions as young leaders, and we need to have these conversations going to sukuma mpaka tufikisha mahali ambapo tunajua kwamba inaweza tusaidia. For the tacklers who have been online all this time, thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to have you. I'll see you again tomorrow. Keep sharing the broadcast. Afadhali endelea kushare. Keep sharing. Let's make a bigger tackle family so that we can have this conversation, build consensus. Very soon tunaanza kuja pale ground kwa town halls ya ukweli, sasa si stadium. Tuanze kuzungumzia tujue ni nipi na lipi lipo ndani kwa mambo ya BBI as we move forward. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a tackle, and the tackle does what? The tackle ends now. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye bye. At least it's a Tuesday. No, on Friday I'll make a mistake. I'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow is Saturday. Anyway guys, thank you so much. Bye bye.